So I'm down at up at the A&W to have a breakfast, and I just finished. It was quite good. The classic Canadian breakfast. So yeah, and then I got to stop at the store and get a few things. I'm going to the mall. I don't normally go to the mall. I very rarely go to the mall. So when I go to the mall, it's an event. So I'm going to pick up a few items at the grocery store at the mall. Okay, yeah. So I shall talk with you good people later. Okay? Yeah. Hello? Yeah, there's the beef and there's the veg and potatoes cooking together. Ooh, yeah. I am in the process of making supper. Hey, yeah. It's March 20th. It is the first day of spring, but we're still getting a little bit of winter. But it is above zero. It is above zero, barely. And we're getting sleet instead of snow. So yeah, it's March 20th. It is March 20th, and yeah, that time of the year when it's supposed to be turning to spring, but not really. Not really. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Bandit seems to think that he's entitled to some of my pork chop. He really does. He's being sneaky. Oh, yeah, so I'm on my back patio at my house. I actually have a house finally. Yes, I'm very happy with this. I've lived here now for the better part of a month. I'm very comfortable here. Progress is happening. Oh yes, progress is happening. Oh. But I want to talk about the difference between socialism and whatever it is that Americans think socialism is. Because it's not socialism. Socialism is the idea that the government protects the people. The government has an obligation to protect the people, to protect the health, safety, well-being of the people. Not just in the sense of bombing the shit out of countries that refuse to give you oil for free, but also in the sense of making sure that you don't die in agony from easily treatable illnesses. Yeah. Things like healthcare, education, roads, bridges, and other infrastructure. All these things have to be subsidized. The revenue generated from taxation and the taxes have to be levied upon everybody equally, and there have to be taxes on imports. Imported goods should be taxed. It's called a tariff. Yes, it's called a tariff. Yeah. And, of course, when I say everybody should be taxed fairly, what I mean is the very obscenely rich should actually have to pay fucking taxes. Now, the Americans did have socialism. There was a man named Franklin Delano Roosevelt who gave America the New Deal. And the New Deal is the foundation upon which everything good in America was built. America went from being a country where you would be hard-pressed to get from New York to Abilene, Texas, without having to take a ship and go around and then take a pack mule and risk being ambushed by bandits. Yes, this was a problem in the 1920s and 30s in America. Roosevelt changed everything. He gave America the infrastructure necessary to make it a connected country where every community had electricity. Every community had running water. every community was hooked up, if not to the telephone, then at least to the telegraph. And every community had a postal service. Yeah. Roosevelt did that with the New Deal, which was socialism. And people continued to own their own homes, they continued to own their own shoes, they continued to own their own toothbrushes. That was socialism in America. And it lasted right up until Ronald Reagan scrapped it in favor of a new system whereby the rich paid no taxes and the poor were taxed even more heavily to pay the rich, called trickle down, which is basically you give the rich all the money and supposedly the rich will then share it back down to you. Of course, this has never worked. It's been 40 fucking years. We're waiting for the trickle down to happen. Yeah. And unfortunately in Canada, Brian Mulroney tried to do the same thing. Fortunately, he failed spectacularly, but unfortunately, we have a lot of conservative provincial premiers who look to America for inspiration. And they want to get rid of all the progress that we have and replace it with a more American system, which is based on extreme hard capitalism, where if you're not rich, you die. Now, I've benefited from socialism, and socialism has successfully kept me alive and healthy, and I'm not rich, but I can get health care. I'm not rich, but I have access to education. I'm not rich, but I can go to a public library and borrow a book free of charge. I'm not rich, but if I'm sick, I can go to a doctor, and I don't have to pay thousands of dollars out of my own pocket to see a doctor. So yeah, socialism is not failing, it is succeeding wonderfully. In Britain, they elected a communist government. And that communist government implemented public health care, implemented welfare, implemented pensions in England. And then when they had achieved all of these things, they stepped down. They stepped down and called another election, and Winston Churchill was re-elected. Yeah. And no, they didn't abolish the monarchy, and no, they didn't persecute anybody. They made life better for the poor. They gave the public what the public was demanding at a time when the public consisted of close to 1 million very well-armed, well-trained, battle-hardened World War II veterans who were going home to a life of poverty and misery that they had been taken away from by the army, and that they had realized there is an alternative to when they traveled the world in pursuit of war against Nazi Germany and against Imperial Japan. They wanted socialism, they got socialism. Socialism has worked wonderfully. And the only reason socialism has begun to falter in England is because of the effort of conservatives to undermine it, beginning with Thatcher. Yeah. In Canada, conservatives are undermining socialism, which is causing it to falter. But without that conservative interference, it doesn't falter, it doesn't fail, it just keeps going, providing education, healthcare, roads, bridges, public services and amenities, all the things that everybody seems to think are a product of capitalism, but actually are made available to the public by socialism, because without socialism, all these things are privileges of the rich. Privileges of the rich. And yes, socialism does allow you to continue to own your own home, your own shoes, your own toothbrush. It does allow you to marry who you please, and does not force you to marry according to a lottery. Socialism is simply the government giving a goddamn fuck about the public and the well-being of the people, the well-being of the poor. Socialism means that there are social programs to help the people who need help. And yeah, I'm perfectly happy to pay taxes if my taxes are going to making the world a better place for everybody, not just for a tiny, tiny handful of the most extremely rich elite billionaires. Okay? Socialism isn't failing. It's being undermined by conservatives who want to bring about a Reagan-style hyper-capitalist society where the poor are completely expendable. We need to fight back against that shit.